Welcome to Before the Bounce for round 12. It's a big one today, previewing our clash with Collingwood. One which could be an 8-point game come the end of the year, given our positioning on the ladder. If we win tonight's game, we will pinch a spot in the 8 temporarily, jumping GWS, but I don't think we can talk about finals until we beat a side above us, and this is the opportunity to do it. It will be a little bit more difficult, of course, without Max Gawn, who is still out with knee soreness, but fortunately, Vice-Captain Jack Viney will return, as does Jay Lockhart. Plus, Braden Preuss is in for his first run of 2020, replacing Luke Jackson, who's out with that hammy. We still have plenty of inexperience in this 22, but there's a few young players that I want to highlight for their work rate. Charlie Spargo is one whose role in the side probably isn't always understood. He had 25 sprint efforts last week, which was the most on the field, so his pressure is fantastic and creates some second chances for us to score. And Tom Sparrow, his pace is consistent. He had the highest average moving speed of 9.8 kilometres per hour on the ground last week. This chain here gets involved 3 times, works really hard, and he also had the best pace running defensively last week, which is a good quality for a midfielder to have. The other player to speak of, who I think we all love watching, is Kessiah Pickett. He was the round 11 Rising Star nominee. He's also signed a contract until the end of 2023. We know he's going to kick plenty of goals and do a lot of flashy things for us, but it's the little things that I enjoy seeing from Cozzy. The pressure, the kicks inside 50, weights it with his right foot and with his left. He can do a bit of everything, but also getting on the move at the stoppages. This one here, he doesn't quite get the ball, but he just looks dangerous. He creates space, and when that clicks, he's going to be a very exciting player to watch. And at the other end of the scale, Christian Salem has notched up 100 career games, so hopefully we get a win for Salo tonight. Now we're going to skip ahead and do a quick Oppo watch on Collingwood, because they're certainly a tough side to beat. They're defensively really sound and difficult to score against. They've conceded the least points in the competition this season, averaging just under 50 per game. So we're going to have to be really precise going inside 50, try to keep it away from Moore and Maynard in the air. They're coming off a win over Adelaide, but they have been struggling a little bit. They've scored just 2 goals in their last 3 first halves, so hopefully we can get a jump on them early. But they have made 5 big changes for the game, with Pendlebury, Moore, Elliott, Hoskin-Elliott, and Reid all coming in, with Jaden Stevenson the big omission there. There's still a long list of players unavailable, with the likes of De Goey, Treloar, Howe and Langdon all still out of this side, and I think the past 4 games have shown that they are missing some of those names. From rounds 1 to 7, they were number 1 in disposals, handballs, contested possessions, 4th in clearances, 4th in loose ball gets, 5th in hardball gets, and 16 in claims. All really good numbers, one of the top teams in the comp. But the last 4 games, that's really turned. They've dropped to 12th for contested possessions, 11th for clearances, now 13th for effective kicks, and 10th for loose and hardball gets. And a really important one, they're number 15 for goals in the last 4 weeks, averaging just 7 a game. So they've been a little bit off their usual standard. The other big talking point for tonight's game is Brody Grundy, obviously without Gawn and Jackson. He's going to be hard to stop. He's been a little bit sore himself, dropping from 2nd in hitouts to advantage to 8th in the last month of footy. Nonetheless, he is still number 1 in the comp for average hitouts with 34 a game, so he's always one to watch. And one man who will be spending a little bit of time next to him tonight is Tom McDonald. Tommy, I'm sure you'll cross paths with Grundy at some stage today. How do you prepare for that sort of battle?
Yeah, I'll do a little bit of ruck work again this week. Help Lukey Jackson out last week for a few minutes each quarter, but it's not a big part of the game for me. So the message is just try and compete against those boys. Don't make it easy for them. Probably understand you're not going to win a heap of hitouts against the number 1 ruckman. So just do what you can, and then maybe in the other parts of the game use your strengths, getting around the ground, being involved, more like a midfielder. So that's sort of my role when I go into the ruck.
Prusy returns today. Hasn't played a lot of footy recently. Are you confident with what he has to offer? Yeah,
well, I think with Prusy, one of the things you can match with Grundy and beat him with is his strength. Just a huge man around stoppages. So we'll be expecting him to be really strong in that area. Hasn't played a lot of senior football, so we have to get around him and really keep pushing him to keep moving around the ground well, which I'm sure he will do, because I've seen him do a lot of work over this time since he's been out. But I'm really confident about what he can bring. Obviously, just with that raw power and strength that he's got, I think he can be a really big force for us in the middle.
Personally, you found yourself out of the side a couple of times. How's your confidence going at the moment?
Yeah, well, look, it's a tough period to go through. Whether in your first year or your 10th year, you always want to be in the side. So not an enjoyable experience. Gave me some things to think about and work on to be able to be playing more consistent football. So I think last week was a step in the right direction, and hopefully another one this week.
Last week you had 33 pressure acts, 7 tackles. Has your role sort of evolved from just hitting the scoreboard?
Well, it was a little bit different last week, so I was sort of playing as a forward who was, a little bit higher, but playing as a tall forward, but then going into the ruck. So when I was around the ball, I tried to make the most of probably being a bit more mobile than the other ruckmen. So that's where the pressure acts and the tackling became really important. So that was a good step forward to just being involved in the game more and helping the team in a different way. So I still want to hit the scoreboard, but there's more things I can do to contribute.
And in terms of tonight's game, win it, we find ourselves inside the 8. Do you feel like we're a finals quality team at the moment?
I think we're building towards that. Tonight's a big test. The last 2 wins have been against sides who are below us on the ladder, and today, just above us and a quality side over the last few years. So big test to beat Collingwood. If we beat them, I think it gives us puts us in a really good spot for the rest of the year, but gives us a little bit of confidence that we can beat sides in the top 8 going forward.
Thanks for your time, Tommy. Go well tonight.
Thanks, Benny.
And just before we wrap things up here on Before the Bounce, I want to give you a couple of things to look out for. The first thing is our defensive acts and our ability to restrict the opposition's score. Although we've played 2 of the lower sides in the last 2 weeks, we've kept them both to 5 goals, which is a really good effort defensively and shows the hunger in that backline group. They're doing the little things like these tackles, the hard chases, and I want to highlight one effort here from Jake Lever, something that probably isn't seen on the broadcast, but he puts a little bit of pressure and doubt in the mind of Bailey Scott, forces him to pass it, and what would have been an easy look at goal becomes a tough behind from the pocket. Secondly, I'm going to highlight a couple of fumbles from last week because I think it's really important to be clean tonight, especially in the dewy conditions that we'll find at the Gabba. We've lost our 2 games in Queensland so far, so if we can take the ball cleanly under Collingwood's pressure, we should be in a better position going forward tonight. And just lastly, I want to keep an eye on our final quarters. The last 2 weeks, we've kicked 13 goals to 1, so we're finishing the game well. We think we're fit. Hopefully we see that again against the Pies. That's all from Before the Bounce. Make sure you keep your eyes peeled for plenty of social coverage throughout the evening.